All right, everybody, I am back with a brand new DC update. And I wanted to get this out there today because some new information has come to light. Some new information has come to my attention regarding the Batman Part 2, regarding Superman, regarding James Gunn. So I wanted to get this video out there. Um, so I wanted to get this video out there for you guys and just, get this video, out of the way. So let's get started. Um, First, I want to talk about um, Superman because, again, we're only 3 months away from release, and things are really heating up, and shit is really hitting the fan down at Warner Brothers Discovery. So let me pull up what I have here, um, and this comes from Aaron Fisher, um, who is one of my go-tos for DC stuff. He is not a scooper, but he has gotten a lot of stuff right in the past. He actually has yet to be wrong about anything on his channel so far. So so even though he is not a scooper, he is very, very reliable. So let me pull up what I have here. Um, and this is regarding Superman. This information was just a couple of days ago. Um, it appears Superman has been heavily edited, so much so that its original runtime of 2 hours and 20 minutes has been cut to 1 hour and 40 minutes, a whooping 40-minute difference. To top it off, another composer has come in to help, probably because the film has been heavily edited. That's all. That's all coming from Gunn, who has had an enormous amount of time to write the story and get it perfect. Seems the studio did not agree with his take. It seems the studio did not agree with his take. Are we getting another BVS situation? I thought Gunn was the final say. Now it appears that is not true. So let's talk about this. Now, as a reminder, to remind people, um, all the decisions, DC related, are supposed to go through. James Gunn is supposed to be collaborating with 5 people. All the decisions, for the DCU, are supposed to be made together by the following people: James Gunn, Peter Safran, Mike DeLuca, Pam Abdi, and David Zaslav. Those 5 people are all supposed to be collaborating together and making the decisions together. However, that is obviously not what's going on, or that's obviously not what hasn't been going on. However, now it seems like that David Zaslav, Mike DeLuca, Pam Abdi, they are all, from what it's looking like, they are all starting to wake up, and realize, it looks like, they are all finally starting, to wake up and realize, it was a big fucking mistake to put this guy in charge of DC. And in fact, a lot of the Gun fans, a lot of former Gun fans on X, and I think I talked about this in a previous video, but a lot of the Gun fans, on X are starting to wake up, and realize, maybe this guy isn't going to save DC. Maybe Superman, is going to be, the disaster the disaster that that everybody is saying it is, or that everybody is saying that it's going to be. And there's a lot of that going around right now. There is a lot of that. I would say probably there's probably like a 1 point there's probably like a 1 point there's probably like a 1.5 percentage out there that is still for gun. And but all the other but like the 4 out of 5 people, the 4 out of 5 gun fans, that have finally started to wake up and realize maybe they're right. Maybe this isn't a good idea after all. If we I already talked about how much everybody loved Henry Cavill as Superman, and how Warner Brothers literally used him as a PR as a PR stunt, just to sell tickets for Black Adam. And remember, guys, they had Cavill come out and announce his return as Superman when Warner Brothers themselves knew they weren't going to keep him. They knew they weren't going to keep him. They knew that they were just going to fuck him over, and yet they still had him come out and announce his return as Superman. And these are the kind of people that run Warner Brothers. These are the kind of, this is the toxic environment, that Warner Brothers is. And I'm telling you right now, again, guys, we are 3 months away from Superman's release, and we don't have an official trailer. We still don't have an official trailer for Superman. There are no posters up at all, and there are no posters up in theaters, mine included. I was literally just at the movies last Tuesday. I was literally just at the movies last Tuesday. I went to see 2 movies back to back, Drop and Warfare, and neither of those movies did I see, and at neither of those movies did I see the Superman footage that dropped in theaters not that long ago. That 5-minute preview that they dropped in theaters. And in fact, I'm going to the theater tomorrow. Again, I'm going to see Sinners. The new Ryan Coogler movie. I can guarantee you right now that they are not going to show the Superman footage. And guys, this is bullshit marketing. And I know I've talked about this to death at this point, but this is horrible marketing. And again, you are trying to get fans, you are trying to get, fans, the general audience, you are trying to get them to accept, this recast, to accept, this new, Superman movie. And I just, it blows my mind. It blows my mind how much, Warner Brothers is not promoting this movie. And you know why they're not promoting this movie? Because Warner Brothers knows how much it's gonna fail. They do. They do. And I say this on every single video. I say this on every single, DC update that I do. It is a fact. It is a fact that these characters make more money. They resonate better. It is a fact that these movies perform better at the box office and resonate better with audiences when they are taken seriously. Guys, the Batman, the Dark Knight trilogy, Joker, Man of Steel, BVS, the first Aquaman, the first Wonder Woman, Joker, all of these movies resonated with both fans and audiences because they were taken seriously. Even the first Shazam, which even the first Shazam, which now to be fair, Shazam has always been a very, like lighthearted, Shazam, like the comics have always had, like a very, like lighthearted tone. The New 52, when they did the New 52 with Jeff Johns, um, that one was taken, uh, a little bit more seriously. However, it did have, um, a great deal. It still had, a great deal, of humor in it, as well as, my point being, even though the first Shazam movie was, lighthearted and funny, it still knew, the movie still knew like when to be serious. You know what I mean? Like the movie still had a great, that first movie still had a great deal of heart as well as humor. And obviously, this is one of the this is the main reason why, or at least one of the main reasons why, the second movie failed, because it didn't have the same amount, it didn't have the same amount of heart that the first one did. It was just, they turned it, into a fucking comedy, and the audience, lost interest. And again, and guys, this is all James Gunn knows how to do. Is, and again, I've talked about this to death. I, you know, team up movies, with fucking goofy bullshit. That's all he knows how to do. And it's exhausting. It is. I'm tired of it. I don't, he did it. He did it. He did it with, the Guardians of the Galaxy, which, yes, I know was very successful. It was a massive, massive hit. I know. But, but he does, but he does this with every single comic book property he adapts. He is a one trick pony. And you can't, and you can't expect, to do that same formula with every single, with every single character, that you do, and expect it, to resonate with everybody, because it won't. It won't. Nobody watched, fucking, Creature Commandos. I think I watched, um, I think I reviewed, I think like the first like 4 episodes here on the channel. And and again, I just, I hated it. It was juvenile. It was disgusting. It was, it was the same, goofy, stupid crap, that Gunn, that has become, Gunn's trademark. And and I know I've talked about this before too, but every single character that Gunn has used, that, every single, comic book, related property that, that Gunn does, every single, character that he's done is a bastardization, of what that character is in the comics, you know, um, his interpretation of Peacemaker is nothing like what you see, in the show. Nothing. He is not a fucking, goofy, sex obsessed, you know, uh, he is not, a goofy, sex obsessed, metalhead. He's not like that in the comics. You know, Rocket Raccoon, Peter Quill, they are nothing like that in the comics, from what I understand. I wouldn't, I don't, me personally, I don't know too much about, Guardians of the Galaxy. I have never really, um, the comics, for whatever reason, just never really appealed to me, for whatever reason. But from what I understand, they are nothing, those characters are nothing like, um, are nothing like that in the comics. Like uh, like some of the character designs, like how Nebula looks in those movies. She looks nothing like that in the comics. Um, and and I know I said this before too. However, I'm going to bring it up again. Um, it's one thing, it's one thing not to be, comic book accurate, but it's another thing to just completely bastardize, the characters, the way that Gunn does, and, like, like I wouldn't be, I think, I think fans would be a little bit more forgiving towards these properties if Gunn at least kept, if Gunn, at least kept, like the personality of the characters intact. But that's obviously not what he does. Like for example, like for example, Matt Reeves, the Batman, right? Is that, is that a perfect, or not perfect, but but is the Batman a straight adaptation of, of any, storyline from the comics? No, it is not. However, Matt Reeves did a very, very, very good job at staying true to, at staying true to a much darker, much, uh, much darker, much, um, a much darker, much, much more grounded take, on Batman. And, that is, and at the end of the day, I think, to me at least, I think that's what's important. If you, if you can stay true to, the characters themselves, the general, the general, the general story, like the overall story, I mean, like, nobody, nobody out there obviously expects, uh a comic book, whether it's a movie, a TV show, a video game, whatever, you know nobody, nobody out there expects it, to obviously be, frame by frame, word for word, because that's, um because that alone is obviously, it is very, very hard to do. And there have been times when, there have been, very, there are, rare exceptions to that. Thor, the first Thor movie, dead on. The 2004 Punisher movie, um, apart from, some small changes, hair and hair and there, for the most part, dead on. Like like there are so many scenes in that movie where you can just literally, there are so many scenes, in that movie where you can just, where you can watch it and go, oh, that's a frame by frame, recreation from, the moment, from the moment, from this comic, or whatever. And, uh, but, my point being is that, James Gunn, turns everything into a fucking joke, and it turns me off. And I know it, and I know I'm not the only one, because, you know, because again, according, and I know I said this in a previous video, but, but Gunn, but according, to James Gunn, you know, staying true to the character is subjective. No, it is not. You are either true to the character or you're not true to the character. Period. And, for example, for example, for example, for example, in the fucking, Superman footage that was shown off, you have when Superman is taken to the Fortress of Solitude to be healed. And I know I said this in my last DC update, but when he's taken to the, the Fortress of Solitude to be healed, and the robots are, are using, sunlight, radiation, to heal him, because again, obviously, the yellow sun is obviously what gives, Superman his powers. So, so, uh so when they take him, or, when he's at, the Fortress of Solitude, to be healed, you have Superman, literally screaming his ass off like he's having an orgasm. And, now remind me, when was the last time in any movie, in any, in any movie, cartoon, animated movie, whatever, when was the last time that you saw him, that you saw him, that you saw him screaming, when being healed by the sun? Exactly, because he doesn't do that. He does not do that. That would not happen. There is a perfect, um there is a perfect moment in there is a perfect moment um in in Public Enemies, um when Superman is, um he just got out of a fight, I think, with Metallo or whoever. I don't know. It's been a while since I've read it. But um someone, I think a scientist from, Star Labs, comes over and says, do you need help? And uh and Superman, and Superman goes, no, the sun will heal me. And that's literally all the sun does. It's supposed to heal him. It's supposed to make him, it's supposed to make him feel better. And again, this is a perfect example of, um, this is a perfect example of James Gunn being James Gunn. And I'm so fucking tired of it. I can't, I can't even begin to explain. I can't even begin to explain how sick and tired of it I am. And it's exhausting. But I want to talk about, um I wanted to bring up, the other reason why, I wanted to bring up the other reason why I decided to do this video. The Batman Part 2. Now, I don't know now, however, I can't, I haven't heard anything, from my sources, to confirm this. So don't, so take it, with a grain of salt for now, until I hear something, more concrete. But supposedly Matt Reeves has confirmed that the Batman Part 2 is on the brink of being canceled. Now, me personally, I do not doubt for a second that this is, that this is indeed what's happening. Because again, I know, because again, and I do remember saying this in a previous update that I did, but remember, but I showed you guys, in one of my videos, Matt Reeves literally confirming in an interview with, Entertainment Weekly, that the script was done originally. Um, Clayface was going to be the main villain. And then James Gunn, being, the egotistical narcissist that he is, came along and stole that idea from Matt Reeves and decided to do a fucking Clayface movie again, when Batman hasn't even been established in the DCU yet. And so, and I do not, me personally, I do think that this movie will be canceled. I, it is not, there is no doubt in my mind that James Gunn is literally doing everything within his power to get this movie scrapped, because all James Gunn wants to do is his, all he wants to do, he wants entire creative control over, DC. And and obviously, and this is a fact, a lot, and a lot of people are, are sick of waiting on the movie. They are sick and tired of, they are sick and tired of, they are sick and tired of what Gunn is doing. And myself, the general audience, the diehards out there, they know that, they know that Gunn is not going to, they know that Gunn, is not going to take, any of this seriously. And if you think, and, anybody out there who seriously thinks, that James Gunn is going to make, is going to take Batman seriously, go get your head examined. Because I am telling you right now, he will not, he just, he won't. He won't, because he never takes anything seriously. Everything's a joke. Everything is, everything is a joke. Everything is juvenile and disgusting. And, two biggest examples are Creature Commandos and Peacemaker, and, everything, all of his fucking, adult projects always have to be, oh, he's racist, he's sexist, he's this, he's that. And, 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 and I mean, this is not what DC stands for. This is not what DC represents. This is not, again, it's not who these characters are. It's not. And now I did talk about in a previous video, about how a music composer who has worked with Warner Brothers Discovery on a lot of their movies has confirmed that they are gearing up for a sale, or they are gearing up to be bought by Universal Studios. Now, is it possible that is it possible that is it possible that is it possible that sorry guys, I can't talk today. Is it possible that Universal could revive the Batman Part 2? Absolutely. My only argument with this is there's still the elephant in the room of if the movie does get canceled, will Matt Reeves in the actors will Matt Reeves and everybody else involved, will they still want to do the movie after all the bullshit and all of the after all the bullshit and drama that Gunn put them through? At the end of the day, that's that's the real question. But at the end of the day, that's the real question. But there is a possibility that Universal very well could revive it. Very well could revive it, because the great thing about Universal Studios is, unlike Warner Brothers, they don't interfere. They don't interfere with directors' visions. It's one of I think it's one of the reasons why Christopher Nolan has chosen to remain with Universal instead of Warner Brothers, because remember, they fucked him over and fired him after Tenet failed in 2020. I mean, given, yes, that was during COVID, but at the same time, it's Christopher Nolan. So, but yes, there is a possibility. That Universal, could come along and revive the project. Me personally, I have not heard, anything from, any of my sources, or anything, anything like that to say, to say, yes, this is definitely the case. This is what's going to happen. I don't, unfortunately, I don't have anything. I don't have anything to back that up right now. So so all I will say in regards to that right now is it is a possibility. Um, Now I want to bring up, I want to go back to Superman for a minute because Zack Snyder took to his Twitter on Superman Day, which was last Friday, April 18th. Um, he posted, on X, um, a basically like a memoir of Henry Cavill's Superman um, and a quote um, and one of my favorite I and one of my favorite quotes from that movie. Man of Steel has so many great freaking lines in it. um I don't remember it off the top of my head. I don't remember the whole thing off the top of my head. I think it's something Jarrell said. But he posted that statement with a picture of Henry Cavill Superman. And uh, remember in one of my last DC updates that I did, in one of my last DC updates that I did, a fan on X posted restore the Snyderverse, sell to Universal, and Snyder and Snyder and that tweet that tweet was liked and retweeted by Snyder himself, and that was not that long ago. So and again, Snyder very, very, very rarely uses his Twitter account. He has another social media account called Vero um that he uses, to talk to fans and, interact with fans and stuff like that. He uses that a hell of a lot more than he uses Twitter. So the fact that the fact that he took to Twitter, on Superman Day, to post this is huge. Um, and again, I think it does confirm, that something is going on behind the scenes. Um, I think it does confirm, that Warner Brothers, I think it does confirm that, that something is going on behind the scenes. And again, now um, I have seen a lot of people say, their arguments for why for why they think the Snyderverse will never happen. A very common argument that I've seen is these actors are too old. My argument for this is my argument for this now I want to come out and say this is a pretty common argument. I am not attacking these group of people here, because this is a very common argument that I have seen, a lot of, Snyder fans and people say. um However, my counter argument, for that is all of the actors, Affleck, Cavill, Godot, uh, all the actors have already said on multiple occasions that they are more than willing to come back. If something, all of them have said, that they are more than willing to come back uh, if circumstances aligned and they were, and they got the green light, to and they all got the green light, from Zach, and Zach got the green light, from the studio. Everybody has already said on multiple occasions that they are more than willing to come back. In fact, In fact, Snyder himself um, actually said, supposedly he actually still has uh, the outlines for for the Justice League 2 and 3. And from what I understand, um, he has been putting in case something in case something ever happened, that would allow him to be able to finally finish his vision. um he did say at one point, and I don't remember where. I wish I kept this um I wish I kept this quote back when I had it. But um he did say that he did say at one point that uh he was asked by someone about the time gap between Justice League, because it's uh between Justice League and the sequels. He said that there would be a 10-year um he said that there would be a 10-year time jump. And um not that long ago was the anniversary of Zack Snyder's Justice League. So so he is already, so you can already tell that he has put a lot of thought into into this whole thing. And but something else I want to something else I want to bring up is um I want to go back to the fucking, as much as I really don't want to. I want to go back to the guntards, because there are still a great deal of guntards out there saying that James Gunn and Zack Snyder are friends. This is bullshit. Okay? This is bullshit. And I know I talked about this in a previous video. I'm going to bring it up again because I was just in an argument with someone about this yesterday. Just because you worked on one fucking movie together, just because you pose in a picture with someone, does not automatically mean you're friends. And this is what I love about the guntards, because this is why I love the guntards, because they piss and moan up and down about they piss and moan up and down about how much they hate Snyder. Even though Snyder obviously hasn't been a part of DC for 8 fucking years now, they still feel the need to dump on Snyder, to again, to piss and moan up and down about about how much about how much they hate the guy, about how much they hate Snyder and his movies, and and everything else. And then the next minute they're going, oh yeah, him and Gunn are friends. It's like, well, which is it? You can't have it both ways. And and I said this to someone yesterday. I'm like, this is what I love about you morons. You piss and moan up and down, about how much you hate Snyder, how much you hate, what he did with DC, and then the next minute you're going, oh yeah, they're friends. I mean, it's like, what fucking sense does that make? Please, I mean, please, somebody explain to me how that makes sense. It's But now there is still the question of uh there is still the question, because remember the Lantern show and Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow both have you know, are both coming out next year. My guess for what will happen with those my guess for what will happen with those is they will most probably be retooled, meaning that they will still come out, but they won't but they will be retooled so that they don't set anything else up, because obviously those movies are obviously supposed to be are obviously supposed to be setting up future projects for the DCU. And and the way and again the way that again the way that things are the way that things are going right now with Superman, with Warner Brothers. I'm telling you right now that I am telling you right now that this movie is not going to be a hit. It's not. And I've been saying this all along, and I'm going to continue to say it. And I'm going to continue to say it until until everybody else. I'm going to continue to say it until until I convince everybody out there that that this movie is dead on arrival. I don't think a lot of people. And a lot of people are obviously going to say, "Oh, well, if you don't like it, don't watch it." Not, you know what happens? I don't think people understand what happens when people like myself don't go to see these things. When people like myself don't go to see these things, they don't make money. When people don't go to see these things, it does damage to the brand. Look at Star Wars. That has been, in the toilet now for quite, for quite some time. The sequel trilogy completely destroyed, the brand. Completely destroyed, the brand, and everybody lost interest. Everybody lost interest because of all the damage that Kathleen Kennedy has done. It's the same thing. It's the same thing with DC. All the damage that James Gunn has done, in the entire 3 years that he's been in charge of DC. In the entire 3 years that he's been in charge of DC. And when this, and again, when this movie comes out, it's going to damage the DC brand for a very long time. I can tell you that right now. I can tell you that right now. They had a friggin' awesome they had a friggin' awesome thing going with Superman and Lois, before it got canceled. And a lot of the actors, and this is another piece of information that I really wish I had kept, back when I had it. But a lot of the actors themselves, even said that they, I mean, obviously they didn't, they didn't, straight up, admit it. However, they did very heavily hint that James Gunn was behind the cancellation of Superman and Lois. And, originally that show was going to be 7 seasons. The showrunner confirmed originally we had 7 seasons planned. And obviously because of because of fucking, James Gunn's, abomination of a Superman movie, that ended up being canceled. Same thing with the Smallville, same thing with the, same thing with the Smallville animated, sequel adaptation that both Tom Welling and Michael Rosenbaum were very heavily, heavily pushing for quite a while. They confirmed that that's been put, on the back burner for now. And that's another thing, that I hope. That's another thing that I really, really hope Universal ends up, reviving when they buy DC. I mean, fingers crossed. But 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 my point is, James Gunn only cares about James Gunn. He only wants his stuff made. He only wants, his stuff made. The only DC that James Gunn wants is what James Gunn does. And I'm going to bring up something else that I actually remember hearing when he was first brought in. James Gunn originally said that he was open to the idea of the multiverse. Originally, he said that he was open to, to the idea of, of all these DC properties, getting made and them being, and there being like this, like this massive, DC, multiverse. And again, and again, another one of James Gunn's many lies. Because because again, does it look like we have a multiverse right now? No. So, yeah, it's, and I'm just, and again, if you watch my stuff, if you watch my videos, that, I've been a comic book fan my whole life. I grew up around comic books. I've been collecting comics for years. I've been collecting comics, for years and years. I go to the conventions. Comic books have been, a part of my life, for as long as I can remember. And Warner Brothers, Warner Brothers has never had any kind of respect at all for the DC brand, and putting someone, and putting a narcissist like James Gunn, in charge of DC proves that, it does. It shows you that they, and again, look what they did to Henry Cavill. Look at all the fans they pissed off. When they, when he announced that, after all of that, after all that excitement, after all that hype, after all that, after all that excitement, after all that hype, after Warner Brothers literally saying that this was just a teaser, of great things to come, after all of that, then they just yanked the carpet out, from under us and say, oh, guess what? We lied. And that alone, and it doesn't matter what anybody says, that is fraud. It doesn't matter what anybody else says. That is fraud. That in this is who Warner Brothers is as a company. And right now, it looks like that Superman will not be shown in China. It looks like that Warner Brothers Discovery will not be allowed to show will not be allowed to screen Superman in China, which is exactly what happened with Black Adam. They weren't allowed to show, excuse me, they weren't allowed to screen Black Adam in certain countries, which is one of the reasons why that movie failed. But and again, and again, again, guys, I am, and and again, again, guys, I have not, like when I hate on something, if I have, if I have if I have a strong dislike, or a strong, passionate hatred towards something, I don't, I don't hate on something just to hate on it. There, like if I hate on someone or something, there is there is always going to be a very, very good, reason and justification for why I'm doing it. I am never, I don't hate on stuff just to hate on, I don't hate on James Gunn just to hate on James Gunn. I give you reasons. I give you reasons. I give you facts for why I hate James Gunn. If I hate, if I say I hate, what Marvel and Disney are doing right now, I give you reasons and facts why I hate it. I don't hate on stuff just to hate on stuff. That's not who I am. And if I don't, and again, I have never lied to you on this channel. I will never lie to you on this channel. If I, again, if I say something is just a rumor, I will say it's just a rumor. If I have heard, if I have heard something from one of my, if I say something, if I say, oh, someone said this, from so and so, I will say to you guys, oh, I heard, this person said, this person said this, and this is my source. And this is my source. I will always have, I will always have some degree of, I will always have some degree of fact, or, I will always have some degree or of fact, or, some kind of, inside information, to back up what I am saying. And again, Superman, hits theaters in 3 months, and, we still don't have an official trailer. Not good. Not good at all. But we'll just, and, and I hate this, I hate that I have to, and I hate this, I hate, I hate that I have to make, these kinds of videos, and I have to make, and then I have to be, so negative, on this channel. Guys, I would like nothing more. I would love nothing more, than to be able to go, I would love nothing more than to be able to go into Superman, come out of it, and be like, oh my God, this is one of the greatest superhero movies I've ever seen. It is, it is a true, definitive version, of Superman. But again, everything that I've seen, everything that I've heard, everything that I've read, tells me, that that is not what's going to happen. And now, if it was, now now say the now say James Gunn, you know, you know, now say that anybody else was doing this, Superman movie, say, like say we had a new Superman movie coming out and it wasn't James Gunn doing it. At that point, I would be like, okay, at that point, I would be like, okay, if it was, at that point, I'd be like, okay, let's give this a shot. Let's see what, let's see what this, director can come up with. Let's see what, you know, let's, let's wait it out. Let's see what happens. But because it's James Gunn doing it, because I know, because I know what I know about James Gunn, and because, and because I know, his style and what he's like, and what he's like, again, because I know what I know, it does not, um, it does not install me with confidence. And for me, and for me to get, and again, and for me, if I were to get excited about this, if I were to get excited about this, if I were to hype this up, it would be a lie. I would be lying to you guys. And I would be lying to you guys. And that's not what I do here on this channel. That's not what I do here on this channel. That is, I have never lied to you guys. I have never, again, I have never lied to you guys on this channel. I will never lie to you guys on this channel. I will always give you my honest, I will always give you, my honest input and opinion, honest or negative, and one more thing I want to talk about before I end this video is Warner Brothers is afraid of the Snyder fans, because, and what I mean by that is they are afraid of people. Now I still have a very relatively relatively small channel, but they are afraid of people, like Aaron Fisher, like, people like that, who stand up for, for what they believe in, and what, who stand up for, not only what they believe in, but also, but also for fact, also for things, like the Snyderverse. They stand up for, Warner Brothers is afraid of, Warner Brothers is afraid of people saying, Warner Brothers is afraid of people, is afraid of, people, like Aaron Fisher, like the Snyder community, because at the end of the day, deep down, Warner Brothers knows that Snyder's fan base is a hell of a lot larger than James Gunn's. And they know, and they know deep down, they know that James Gunn will never be as popular, that James Gunn's, interpretation of DC, has never and will never be as popular as what, Zack Snyder did. Because when Man of Steel was coming out, I don't remember if I mentioned this or not, but originally, when Man of Steel was happening, Warner Brothers originally wanted Christopher Nolan to do it. and Christopher Nolan actually turned it down and said and specifically said and specifically recommended Zack Snyder because he knew because Nolan knew that Snyder would and because Nolan knew that Snyder would would set the bar uh Snyder I'm all right because Nolan knew that Snyder would Nolan knew that Snyder would define Superman for years to come, and obviously he did. And in fact Nolan actually called Watchmen ahead of its time when it came out. In fact, um, Christopher Nolan was actually the first person that Snyder showed the finished product of the Snyder Cut to. And and I mean, and obviously, yes, Nolan, and obviously, yes, Nolan, Nolan ended up being, one of the writers for Man of Steel. I think he also, I think he was also one of the, I think he was also one of the producers, him and his wife. But but my point, anyway, sorry, I know I'm getting off track now, but but Warner Brothers is afraid of the Snyder fans because people all over the internet are still saying, people, all over the internet are still saying, restore the Snyderverse, restore the Snyderverse. Remember, the anniversary of the Snyder Cut was not that long ago. And that, and the Snyder fans, and the Snyder fans obviously that day took complete advantage of that and made, and made it, and made it their, and made it their mission, to make, their voices heard. And and Warner Brothers, and and obviously, and also too, another reason why I think Warner Brothers is afraid of the Snyder fans is, another reason why I think they are, afraid of the Snyder fans is obviously just because they hate Zack Snyder for whatever reason. Remember, remember, uh, remember the Walter Hamada days of DC. Of DC films. Remember remember his original ending, for the Flash movie was the Snyderverse never happened. And that was, and he obviously did that, as a fuck you to Zack Snyder. Now, obviously, that was not the ending, for that movie, that obviously that was not the ending for that movie that we ended up getting, but that was one of the endings that they shot, supposedly. And and another thing to keep in mind here is, remember, guys, and I know I talked about this in my last video. Mike DeLuca is singing praise for for James Gunn's Superman. Now, let me ask you guys a question, and I think I said this in my last video, but do you really think Do you really think that Mike DeLuca would say anything negative about Gunn's Superman, even if he felt it? Even if he felt it, even if he felt it, in his heart, like even if he truly didn't like it, do you really think he would say anything negative about the movie when his ass is on the line? Think about that for a second. Think about that for a second. Do you really think he would risk his job, even if he truly didn't like the movie? Do you really think he would come out? Uh, Keep in mind, this is someone that's already in a lot of hot water because remember, I talked about this already, but David Zaslav is supposedly looking to get rid of uh, Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdi. Do you really think? Do you really think that he would risk, getting himself into further hot water by saying, anything negative about Superman, even if he truly did feel it? Excuse me. Remember, remember the Flash, guys. We were told that that was one of the greatest comic book movies ever made, just as important as The Dark Knight. David Zaslav called it the greatest comic book movie ever made, and James Gunn called it one of the greatest comic book movies, he's ever seen. And again, and now, yes, I know that was, and that was around the time that he was being brought in, as the new head of DC Films. Again, do you really think James Gunn would say anything negative about the Flash movie when he just got his promotion? Of course not. That would be suicide. And I can't even begin to tell you how many arguments I've gotten into, with people who try to sit there and bullshit me and saying, oh yeah, he couldn't, who try to sit there and bullshit me and say, oh yeah, he wasn't allowed to say anything negative about the Flash. Well, he had nothing, preventing him, from saying anything negative about the Flash. Bullshit. Bullshit. He said he gave that praise for the movie, and he's saying that praise for the movie because he had just gotten his promotion at Warner Brothers as the new head of DC Films. And and you know and again and and you know and again you know again you know we were told again we were told how important this movie was, just as important, as The Dark Knight. And when in reality obviously the movie was complete shit. But that definitely did not stop Warner Brothers from paying off Tom Cruise, from paying off Stephen King to say positive things about it. This is why I will never trust Warner Brothers again. Because this is why I will never trust Warner Brothers again. This is why I will not get excited about Superman. This is literally the Flash all over again. All over again. It's all over again. I'm telling you right now, it is the Flash all over again. And if you don't, and again, you know, don't believe me now. Just wait till the movie comes out. Just wait. Just wait. Just wait. The remaining, you know, the remaining Gunn fans out there are in for one hell of a rude awakening when this movie crashes and burns in July. And something else I've been thinking about. San Diego Comic-Con is also in July. Now I am in Massachusetts. It's too San Diego is is too far for me, but I am obviously someone but even though I am obviously not able to attend in person, I am obviously someone that still pays attention to um whatever is announced there, and whatever is announced there, whatever news is posted. Even though I never go in person, I always look forward to hearing, all the different announcements and news and stuff that are posted. Um, while that, event is going on. But uh but the point that I'm trying to make is Superman hits theaters July 11th. San Diego Comic-Con um I think is like, I want to say like the last, maybe like the second to last, or maybe last weekend in July, somewhere around there. I know for a fact it's not until after Superman comes out. So, but my point being, this is going to be one hell of a year for San Diego Comic-Con. This is going to be a very, very, very interesting year for San Diego. So we will be and with all the bullshit that's going on, down at Warner Brothers right now with DC and everything else, this it is definitely going to be a very interesting year to to see what happens. But anyway, I will, of course, keep you guys posted. I will I don't know when my next DC update is going to be. It's at this point, it's just going to have to be a game of wait and see. I will obviously, make a new DC update, when I have, new information. But for now, this is what I got. So it's the waiting game, unfortunately. I know, believe me, I hate it too. But we will just have to wait and see what happens. And I will talk to you guys later. So peace.